Hello world, Double Thumbs here. The debate of rent versus own has been discussed a million times already, and the typical thinking is that ownership is better just because rent does not go towards your asset like your mortgage payments do. But I actually wanted to do some calculations to find out how much really you'd be losing by renting an apartment versus owning a house. Because ownership of a home is usually associated with the higher maintenance costs, I wanted to see if the difference between the maintenance costs may be enough to justify renting an apartment versus owning a house. And while doing this, I came up with this formula right over here, which I will explain later in the video. Let's go do some math. I will strictly focus on costs of accommodation and exclude any kind of investments, which include mortgage payments for house and any kind of funds or ETFs for renting. And also I won't talk about any other costs of living like food and transportation because I just want to focus on the accommodation portion. And then I'll do some more calculations to find out which is financially better. But this is going to be based on a regular size city in a regular size home and apartment. So no hamlets or villages, but no New York City or Toronto either. So first we'll look at some utility bills. And if you own, you pay everything, and these are real numbers here. Electricity, water, garbage, and sewage combined together was $258.25, and gas and heating, $161.71. So total utilities, about $420 or $419.96 to be exact. And if you rent, most of the utilities are actually included in the rent. And this particular apartment only makes you pay electricity, which is about $39 or $40 a month. And as you can see, renting is definitely better in this regard. The difference about $380 per month, which equates to $4,560 per year, which is a significant amount. And the second part is rent, insurance, and taxes. If you own a home, you have this great thing called property taxes where you have to pay the government to own your own house, which is about 0.7% to 1% of the property's value. So looking at a house that's about $400,000, it is about $3,900, which translates to $325 per month. And in terms of the rent, you have to pay rent. So for a 2-bedroom apartment in my city, it's about $1,200 per month, which translates to $14,400 per year. And in both cases, you do have to pay insurance, which is about $30 per month for the apartment, which is about $360 per year, or for the house, $100 per month or $1,200 per year for the home. So as you can see, the difference between the two is quite significant, and it's quite beneficial to own a home in this regard. About difference about $805 per month or $9,660 per year. So now the total amounts and at what point is renting better than owning. And for rent, we have to look at the three costs, which is rent, $1,200, and the insurance, which is $30, and utilities, which is about $40. So $1,270 if you're by yourself, and about $635 if you're sharing it with someone else. And for ownership, $420 for utilities, $325 for property tax, and $100 for insurance, so $845 per month, or about $420 if you're sharing that with someone else. So total difference being about $425 per month, so times that by 12 months, it's about $5,100 per year. And if you're sharing that, it's about $2,580 per year. As you can see, renting has higher costs of accommodation, meaning it has higher expenses that does not add any value to your net worth. But at $5,100 per year, it's not as big as I expected it to be. And maybe your investments might be enough to kind of cover that difference in costs. When you own, the primary investments for you is your house. So through your mortgage payments and your down payment, you're making your investment. Whereas when you rent, your investments can be anything that you want. with the amount that you would pay for your mortgage and the down payment. So it could be your ETFs, mutual funds, gold, Bitcoin, or any kind of business that you want to buy or run. And if the value of these investments increase more than the value of your home, it might be worth renting and putting your money in these investments. So this explains the equation mentioned at the beginning of the video. So you take the sum of the down payment that you made and also the mortgage payments that you'll make over the year and multiply that by the difference in the increase of value in your investments versus your housing market. And you compare that to the difference between the cost of accommodation between rent versus ownership. And if the left side is higher, it means your investment increases are more significant, so renting would be better. If the right side is higher, it means that the housing market is doing better and you should just buy a house. If it's the same, then owning a house will be better because you get more space for the same cost. So let's punch some numbers in. And assuming a $400,000 home and the market numbers from my city, so $40,000 or 10% of the $400,000 in down payment, which leads to $1,750 per month in terms of mortgage payments, so $21,000 for the year. So $61,000 is a total amount that you'll be multiplying. And on the investment increase side, so had a increase in value of about 7% in investments, and subtract to that minus 1% growth in the housing market, minus 3% because of the mortgage rate. So you actually get 7 minus 4%, which is about 11%. And 11% of $6,100 or $61,000 is about $6,710, which is greater than $5,100, which means that renting is better in my situation right now. And this is because of the great shrinkage or lack of growth that my city's housing market experienced in the last year. And if you were to break even using this equation, it should have been about 1.64% in the housing market increase, and it would have justified owning a house. And normally speaking, housing market will experience more than 2% growth. So in a normal situation, it still will be better to own a house rather than renting an apartment. But in this year's case, it was actually better to rent an apartment and focus on the investments. And this equation definitely isn't perfect. So if you wanna let me know what I missed out so we can improve this equation, then you'll get my double thumbs up. So in conclusion, what did we discover? The difference in costs for renting versus ownership of a home is definitely significant, but it may not be as big as you expected it to be. So it might come down to personal situations and preference, because if you need a lot of space, for example, if you have a growing family, then ownership of a home may be the only choice that you have. And it's not a bad choice in terms of finances, as long as you can afford the down payment and the mortgage payments. It's definitely worth the go. And if you don't want to deal with the headaches of home maintenance, and if you don't need a lot of space, then renting an apartment while putting your money into other investment sources is definitely not a bad idea. But what do you think in terms of the rent versus ownership argument? Let me know down below, and until next time,